Hello from New York.
Greetings from London.
So today we're...
Tom, I can't hear you, Tom.
Hang on a minute. Hello, mate.
Hey.
Hey.
Good to see you.
Right, let's do this.
Welcome to the Media Snack Review of the Year.
Good, so it's the review of the year. We do our top 10 kind of most interesting things of the year as a summary for the year. Normally, if you're a regular viewer, you'll know that we're typically on the roof doing this, but it's
very cold.
Absolutely pouring today. So unfortunately, we're back in the bookshelves. So we're going to, and just for fun, we're going to do it backwards.
Yep.
I don't know why, but we're going to do it backwards. So K is for
KPIs and the importance of KPIs and the importance of marketeers to put really strong, sensible KPIs around media. So most of the briefs that we've received have really clear media KPIs, and most of those are strategic. Okay,
Yeah.
so we see that marketers are beginning to have a higher, more elevated perspective around media KPIs, which is a good thing.
Very good, more important than ever.
C is for
CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, a big influential part of the industry, being written off on a daily basis. And this year, in 2019, we've lost some high-profile CMOs, like McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts and Uber and many, many others. Kraft Heinz, I think, lost their CMO this year. And then a little kick in the tail. At the end of the year, it was announced this week, Coca-Cola are reappointing a CMO, having got rid of it 2 years ago and replaced it with a Chief Growth Officer. But great, one of the world's greatest brands now has a Chief Marketing Officer again. It's a great idea. A is for?
Agencies. We always have an A for agencies, I think, but this
or
year...
Amazon sometimes.
True, but this year they continue to have these are really challenging times for the agencies. They're having to restructure themselves, make themselves more kind of future-proofed based on more demanding requirements from their clients. These are big, often unwieldy kind of organizations, and they're having to adapt really, really quickly. Senior management is changing. They're having to make some massive decisions around restructuring. All at a time when pressure is coming to them from other areas like consultancies. So they are doing their very best, but these are still challenging times for the agencies.
It's been a tough year for agencies, I think.
Yeah. N is for
nonsense.
Yes.
Nonsense or noise, but I like nonsense. But you know where I'm going with this one, which is what we've been talking about a few times in recent episodes, which is just the amount of nonsense that this industry talks. And I'm sure we're guilty of it as well, but we just add to the noise. There's so many contrary points of view, so much technical jargon, it's just overwhelming, and it's giving marketers headaches, and we should just make a commitment next year just to calm down on the nonsense, I think.
Very good.
S is for?
Simplify.
Yes.
So our word of the year for 2020, and kind of in line with your rant about nonsense, simplifying the language, the confusion, the complications around media. Okay, let's make it more accessible to senior suiters. Let's make it more accessible to kind of marketeers to understand what we talk about, right? So let's simplify moving into 2020. A is for
audit. I'm not going to say that word anymore.
Okay.
Because as far as I'm concerned, that word should die as it relates to media. Here we use the word assurance, which is a better term. I think it's just slightly more informative. And this toxic word that I've just mentioned, that I'm not going to say again, we've just, as an industry, we've got to stop using it. It's aggressive, it's confrontational, it doesn't serve the purpose, and it's not technically one of those things anyway. So let's stop it. Nobody likes the people that do it and that keep talking about that. So let's move on again. Simplify the language. Let's talk about what we really mean.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to this one.
Is for integrated.
Yes.
And this is about advertiser demands becoming more integrated between content development and creation and smart strategic media thinking, right? I mean, Centrica was the biggest example that I think the country's ever seen in terms of an integrated review this year. And that was around a business wanting to use data as an enabler for smarter, more integrated content, creative and media thinking. And I think that is the direction of travel, and we're going to see a lot more advertisers asking for solutions that are far more integrated.
Great. And you did a really good interview with their CMO,
with Mark,
which we should link to, which explains this story so well, and we just think that that's going to be a blueprint for more marketers to just be talking this way.
D is for
data, although as I like to call it, information. But as an industry, we've got obsessed with data. You'll know this year, the major agency groups invested billions and billions and billions in making acquisitions into dedicated data companies. The problem that comes with that is that then they start to talk like and sound like data companies. So I think agencies have become a bit boring about data, when really information is at the heart of what they should do. So let's again draw a line under that nonsense. We want to be next year seeing a much more human story from agencies, particularly when it comes to data, because as you often say, data is the enabler to enable people to come up with great ideas. So let's just focus a bit more on that craft and less on the technical side. Okay, E is for
everyone.
Oh, that's nice.
But this is important because we as an industry are singular. Okay, we find ourselves fragmented and in silos, and there has been so much kind of toxic narrative, certainly in the last kind of 10 years. We seem to be more divided than anything, and we should be kind of leading the charge together, because it is such a powerful, wonderful industry that we work in, and I think we need to be further together. So
it's funny, isn't it? Like how there can't be many industries in the world that are just quite so divided and contrary. I keep using the word contrary, but it's kind of like that. We're just a really fractured agency. Where we're all really serving the same kind of purpose, and I think sometimes we forget that. So that's a hope for the future, right? Everyone come together. I feel quite moved by that. But I think it's a good sentiment. We should be one industry a lot more.
M is for
Marketer of the Year, and that's why we've actually decided to go backwards through Media Snack this time. Because it's an important one to end on. It's not only Marketer of the Year, but potentially even Marketer of the Decade, which of course is going to be Procter & Gamble. We talk about them a lot, and we talk about them a lot because they're one of the most vocal brands, also the biggest and therefore hugely influential businesses. But it's a business which has been kind of in trouble, like 3 or 4 years ago, going back. They were having activist investors kind of come on the board, asking for the company to be broken up. Lots of people were writing it off as a long-term proposition. And just even in the last 18 months, the share price of P&G is up over 50%. They're seeing organic growth, quarterly organic growth, like significant, 6-7%, which is amazing in that category, and a business that's been written off. Now, of course, lots of things contribute to that. Those that have worked with P&G will know the kind of incredible culture and the drive that the business has to succeed. But when it comes to marketing, I mean, there has some key individuals. Mark Pritchard is probably probably the most quoted marketer on the planet, but rightly so. I mean, with clarity of vision, he crafts his story and his narrative and takes that responsibility as chief brand officer incredibly. Holds that incredibly importantly and guides a giant organisation. And we should also credit our friend Jerry D'Angelo, because he's the media guy, right? Who's responsible for global media, and they have made massive changes in the way they do media in the last 3 years since Jerry's been there. That's not coincidental. They've announced they do 30% of all their media planning is now done in-house. They're experimenting with in-house buying. They've got whole divisions and complex, sophisticated technologies with good people around them doing a lot of the media buying now and learning. And they're a great agency as well as a great marketer. Right. So an incredible story, really. P&G again. We're going to obviously keep an eye on them. One to watch. I think they could really go somewhere next decade. But congratulations, P&G, Marketer of the Year.
So that's a kind of a close of the year, but it's also the close of a decade. And we sit here and we talk about media, and we talk about the importance of media, and we talk about how media has never been higher on the corporate agenda. And as I look forward into 2020 and beyond, I see real optimism and hope for our industry.
Good.
I think we've turned a corner. I hope that we can bring in the humanity to all of the brilliance around technology and data that we have. I hope that we can bring in the craft of media thinking and strategy. And I hope that brands continue to believe in media as a core lever for business growth. So
Good.
that's my hope for the future.
I think be nice, be friendly, be human
Yeah.
as well. And before we go, our media person of the year, and I'm really tempted to say media person of the decade because I'm really struggling to think who that might be. But our media person of the year is going to be Mr. Bob Hoffman, and I will tell you why. There might be people groaning, going, okay, well, you talk about Bob. But interestingly, media person of the year is a fine gentleman on the west coast of America, retired, who's not a media person, by the way. He was he ran an agency. I think he's a copywriter originally. In his early 60s, let's say, Bob would be our media person of the year. Well, how bizarre would that be? Yeah. The reason is, if you're familiar with Bob Hoffman and his alter ego, The Ad Contrarian, which is a blog he's been writing for 10 or 15 years, he's also written I think one of the most definitive books about the media industry, Bad Men, and a number of other good books. But Bad Men particularly, if you haven't read that, it really kind of sums up the challenges that we've had. Bob has called this decade the decade of delusion. And again, you'll have to kind of dig in and understand exactly why that is. And he's been a huge campaigner against surveillance marketing, okay, and tracking and all of these kind of things, which in his view, and he's been, by the way, been saying this for 10 years, is that we don't need it. You do not need to do that to be a good marketer. So we would like to honour Bob Hoffman as the media person of the year, and as I say, very tempted to say he's possibly going to be seen as the most influential person of the decade when it comes to media. Good for you. So that is your Media Snack review of 2019. Please subscribe down below to be alerted of some new episodes coming in January.
Happy Christmas, and we'll see you next year.